Hello there, I do trust that you're keeping well, and welcome to another special edition of Sport On. My name is Bernard Ndong, and as always, I'm joined by my navigator, Okabi. We said we'll be saying it navigator because of the rally that we had a few months back.
Yes, but I think now that we are going into something different, maybe we should change it to co-coach.
Yes, co-coach.
You remember back in the early 2000s, Liverpool had two coaches, Roy Evans and Gerard Houllier. So maybe we should do co-coaches for the next month, until at least until the Champions League is over.
Absolutely. Well, if you're an Arsenal fan, the two gentlemen in studio tonight do not need any introduction, but just for the benefit of our viewers, Wakabi, we have a very, very special group of individuals. Robbie Lyle, Cecil Thomas, team members of AFC. I can't even imagine that they're here, Wakabi. They've traveled thousands of kilometers to come to Nairobi.
Yes, I think it took them very long to get to Nairobi, given how big the Arsenal support is in this. I mean, Nairobi people go to church to pray for Arsenal results. But it's very nice to have you guys here. Maybe we just start off by saying, how's the experience been like? I know it's been like a non-stop tour throughout since Friday. How has it been?
Yeah, it's been incredible. Since we've come here, you know, like you said, it's been non-stop. But it's been fantastic, and yesterday the watch party that we did, was it Concave?
Yeah,
it was amazing. Like 1,500 people there, passionate Arsenal fans, and it was everything I expected and more. So absolutely brilliant, and yeah, and then just been loving our time here.
Does it surprise you how huge the support is for Arsenal on this continent and in Nairobi, for example?
Not really, you know, because I've seen from afar the support. Like you said, those videos of people in church and that, I've seen those videos. And also, like, we have a lot of interaction with the fans from Kenya. I meet a lot of them at games when they're coming over, and also online. They're always talking, always, you know. So I already knew that there's a massive fan base for Arsenal in Kenya. So that's why it was one of the places for me that we had to come to, because we've done... this is now our fourth country now. We've done in Africa, we've done Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and now here. So this is one of those countries that we had to come to because we know about the fan base here.
Cecil, when did this conversation begin that, okay, we need to go to Africa, let's go and just interact with our fans in the continent?
A few years back, actually, Nigeria was our first visit into Africa, and it was a success. We got to tour it, meet the fans, which is the most important thing. We got to meet them, feel the energy from, you know, the fans over there. And because of the response from these tours, it's been so successful, so good, that we just had to continue. We look at Arsenal and we see, you know, they do a lot of pre-season tours. Since I've been at AFTV, I've gone to every pre-season tour from Arsenal, but it's always been America. It's going to be in Asia this year. They kind of, in my opinion, neglect Africa, even though they have such a huge fan base. So Robbie, fair play to him, credit to him, said we need to go and see those fans. And we spoke about, you know, Kenya. What made us come here as well is, if we look at our audience, we're very popular in the UK, popular in the States, but Kenya was the fourth popular place that we have in our audience. So it was right to come here.
Do the statistics maybe top of your mind, or range?
I wish, on the spot.
Yeah, I wish I could, but I know this in the majority. Yeah, we have a wide fan base, but Kenya's all the way up there. So it made sense for us to come here as well. And like I said, I think sometimes Arsenal don't visit enough to Africa, so we thought, you know, we're going to do that, and it's been amazing ever since.
Not enough of the Premier League teams. When you think of, you know, not just Arsenal, I mean, Arsenal got to visit Rwanda, and I haven't seen them visit Rwanda. I mean, so, but, you know, I think for the support that the Premier League has in Africa, I'm surprised that more teams have not come and maybe even played a game. And obviously I know there can be logistical problems sometimes, but they should have already. So it was a mission of mine that, you know, we got to come to Africa, we got to show respect to the fans here. They're as passionate as we are. The only difference between fans abroad and us in the UK is that we have access to get to go to the games because it's, you know, it's nearby, but it doesn't mean that the fans in Africa are not as passionate as we are. They are. I saw it yesterday. You know, when we were 2-0 down, I was like, oh my days. We've come all the way here to lose. But with all these trips, we've been unbeaten on the road in Africa. And that's what I was saying to you guys earlier. We should have come here for the Champions League. Instead of going to Paris, we should have came here.
He's right. Can I also add as well, like, I think before we started doing the African tours, for me, I had a bit of a westernised mindset of Africa. But coming here, the culture, the beauty, the people, it's changed my whole perspective on Africa, and it's been so warming being here, especially in Kenya as well. As we arrived, we had such an amazing welcome. So I think it's important that we do that, and we show off the places we go to, because like I said, there's so much more than what I think people even understand what these countries can offer.
That's important to us, that you know, when we come, like we're coming to Kenya now, it's not just about showing the passion of the fans, which I think, you know, people watching those videos from yesterday will see the passion of the fans, but also showing the country, you know what I mean? What does Kenya have to offer? You know, that's really important, you know. So, yeah, twofold.
Yeah. Robbie, I know you've been asked this question a million times, but I think for the sake of our viewers, how does a man sit in London and decide, I'm going to do AFTV? I'm going to stop whatever else it is I'm doing. This is what I'm going to do, and this is why I'm going to go with it.
You know, sometimes you just have a vision for something. So you know, as a lifelong Arsenal fan, I was working as a building surveyor at the time, getting a bit restless, because I'm a bit of an entrepreneur. I fancy myself as a bit of an entrepreneur. Right? I remember my mum, who's Jamaican, she always used to be cussing and say, keep still and do your work. You know what I mean? But I can't keep still, right? So I had an idea where I wanted to start a channel where fans could have their say on Arsenal and in video, right? So I didn't know anything about video at that time. I didn't know anything about social media, nothing. I just had the idea. And I just one day just said, right, it's time to, you know, because a lot of times you have ideas, you have plans, and they die because you're thinking about how you're going to do it, what should I do, when am I going to get the money. What I sort of did is I just said one day, just going to go for it, and let's see what happens, and here now.
And it's now, it's metamorphed, or it's changed to something really, really big, almost like the voice of the fans. If someone wants to know what the Arsenal fans are thinking, they go to AFTV. Did you envisage it becoming the voice of the fans, and the way it's now become not just the voice, but a whole content generating, like you said, something on its own?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted it to be the voice of the fans. I mean, that was the intention. So if it's become that, that's fantastic. But yeah, that was the intention from day one, because I was like, why do you never hear from fans? You know, I respect what guys like you do. My brother, in fact, in the UK is works at BBC. So I know how difficult it is and how skilled you have to be to present in sports on TV and radio. But I was like, one thing though, you never hear from the fans, right? So I wanted to have a platform where any fan of Arsenal could have their say on what they thought about the club and what they thought about the performances, and that, because I just used to hear so many opinions, you know, whether it be in a pub after a game or whether it be the next day at work, and so I said, how do we get those opinions out? And that was the whole thinking around the platform.
Cecil, I'm assuming that's one of the reasons that influenced you to join the team. What is your background? What were you doing before you joined AFTV?
I was a professional footballer before AFTV. That's where I started. I was at Crystal Palace in the academy at 15, and I signed a 2-year contract at Crawley Town in League One. And then after that, I didn't have the greatest of times there, and I didn't enjoy being a professional footballer, even though it was my dream at the time. But then I went to Nottingham Forest for a little bit. But after at 19, that's when I was at Nottingham Forest, I decided to stop and do something different, took a bit of a risk, and I went into performing arts, ballet, contemporary, jazz,
it's quite
street
a pivot.
dance. Yeah, it was, it caught quite a lot of attention. It was quite, at the time, it was a big risk. It was just, I just wanted to do something different. And Robbie mentioned his mum saying, you just stay still, keep still. Right. I was similar, I wanted to try something different, and my mum always said, try, keep still, but I like to explore new things. So I went into that, trained really hard, and achieved a lot in performing arts and dance. And then COVID hit, of course, I'm sure many will remember, and my industry shut down. And I was also getting a bit of itchy feet, so I thought now's another time to pivot and change. And Robbie was looking for a new presenter. I applied, and from the first meeting I knew I want to be a part of what this is, and I wanted to bring from being an ex-professional footballer, there was a bit of a, in my opinion, a skewed opinion of footballers compared to what they think of fans.
In what way?
We were very aware when I was playing that, you know, the fans help pay our salaries and whatnot, but I just think there wasn't much respect for what fans, what they give up and how they follow the club, their love and their passion. I think there's a bit, when I was a professional footballer, in the game was just a bit of a skewed vision of that, and I wanted to kind of change that. And I think from joining AFTV, and I want to also bring the club closer to the fans. I know, listen, Mikel Arteta has done a massive job doing that himself, but I feel like AFTV, since I joined in 2020, has really tried to bridge the gap between that. I think nowadays the football fans, they're very recognised, especially in the space that we're in. There's a whole different mindset, I think, from players to fans. And thanks to Robbie, the digital fan space is now a real big thing. It's not just AFTV that he's the founder and owner of. He's got DR Sports that has multiple known fans that have their own channels and are respected within sports media and also known by the club. So it's been a long journey, but it's on the right path, and I'm glad, you know, I'm sat here alongside Robbie on this tour.
So, Robbie, what do you think has been the impact of AFTV towards the club?
Towards the club?
Yeah. Is the club in a better place because it hears the fans more? Is a club at times feeling like, oh no, this man is pushing a bit too hard? How's that relationship? Because it must have its ups and downs.
Yeah, I think at first probably they didn't like me too much. Because, you know, we were allowing fans to have their say. And it was a very, as well, when we sort of first started, is quite a traumatic time for Arsenal because, you know, you're a legendary manager like Arsene Wenger, who everybody loved, but he was sort of coming to the end of his time and he's starting to get criticised. And, you know, we're a channel that we allow people to have their opinions. So there were people probably who didn't like that. But we've got to allow people to have their opinions. So, but I think over the years now, they've really grown to respect the platform. You know, we have a decent relationship with them, no problems at all. And I've seen even how, with what we've changed even how they make their content and how a lot of football platforms make their content. Because I think when we first were doing it, it was the first ever at any time anyone had ever done this, right? So I think a lot of sort of established media companies sort of looked down on us and sort of said, oh, what are they doing? But I don't think they understood that we were really connecting with our audience, with our community. And I think over the years they've learned from how we do things. And, you know, I've seen so many, you know, football clubs and radio, TV stations sort of change their attitude towards us, but also towards how they make content. Because content's changed, you know what I mean? We live in an age now where, you know, people can consume content not just on TV stations like this, but also right across all the social media platforms that are available right now. So, and how we consume football is changed. You know, once upon a time when I was a kid, you watch TV, you know, the game's on, you watch the game on TV, after that, you're gone, whatever. Now, you know, you're on the phone before the game, you're bantering with your friends, you're back and forth, what's the starting lineup, blah, blah. You watch the game, after the game, you're bantering again, you're commenting. I mean, people can't get enough of football now. It's not just the 90 minutes now. The 90 minutes, the actual conversation that goes on around football is way bigger than 90 minutes. It can last days, you know? So we're still talking about PSG and games like that, which happened last week, you know? So
Martin from PSG.
Yeah. Cecil, obviously, when of course you're in that particular space, when you're now asking the questions, how do you keep your cool? How do you keep your calm? Because there's some instances where you can, emotions can get inflamed, people can be a bit raw. I can see you laughing, you know what I'm talking about. How do you maintain composure? Because you're also a fan as well.
Spot on. Spot on, you're right.
Can I say drum rolls because they show you spot on?
No, but I'm also a fan as well. So it's a new space and a new role that I had to get to grips with. But I feel like, I don't know, I'm very immersed in it now. I think I have a bit of a responsibility to, when I'm interviewing fans, I've watched, you know, Robbie walk the path, and now I'm following it. I feel like there's a bit of responsibility to deliver a good interview afterwards. And you're right, we've been in from fans losing their heads and not wanting to laugh and not breaking your focus. Lee the other day, Lee Judge is a very popular, he's a very popular creator on the channel. From not breaking face when fans getting angry to also being in hostile environments when you're going to derby games and you're outside the stadium at rival stadiums and there's people.
PSG last week.
PSG as well. Last year we got held in for 2 hours and we come out and it's pandemonium, it's chaos on the streets, but we have to get the job done. And I understand the importance of it because there's a responsibility, because that's why we're here and we're known, because we're delivering the content. We don't just go here, we go around the world, and people appreciate the content. They really do. They want to hear and know how the fans are feeling. So I can't just not give the interview or not break focus and understand the objective. So I'll be honest, it has been difficult. It's been a learning curve, but I know what the responsibility is.
Yeah. I'm guessing you also have to have a lot of situational awareness as well, because you've said sometimes things can become quite interesting, like PSG. Is that something you had to learn over time when you started?
Yeah, you do. You learn over time. You learn over time because football can be a very emotional game. I mean, to be fair though, I think the majority of places we go, even from the away fans, we get a lot of love. I'd say the only grounds that I go to where I get no love is Tottenham. Right? So when you go to Tottenham, that's a war zone, right? So that one is very sticky and very tricky to navigate, but we still do it. We'll still do all the fan cams and that, and there's just little methods we deploy. Like for instance, after a game like that, we'll wait for a lot of fans to leave first before doing the internet. They'll still come looking for us.
Yeah, they will.
But we'll wait a bit first before we do the interviews.
Allow us to take a very short break. I'll be back with much more on Sport On coming up shortly.
It's about the consistency and the level. At the highest level, we can compete against any team in the world, and we have shown that now for the last 2-3 seasons. I think against the top 6, I think we haven't lost any single game. So that tells you, as a team, we are very, very consistent. We can compete with anybody, but actually to win it and win, we're going to need something else apart from availability as well, certain demands, and make sure that we don't talk about reaction, because I hate that word.
Robbie, you agree, disagree?
I thought the performance yesterday, the first half, I agree with him. That was poor. We should have been 2-0 up. Saka had an easy chance, missed it. I think Partey had a chance, missed it. And then I think you saw the difference between Liverpool and Arsenal this season. They got their chances, bang, bang, goals, clinical. We've not been clinical enough this season. That's why we've lost the league. As Arteta said, we haven't lost to we have lost to the Big Six. We did lose to Newcastle, actually, in that. But the traditional Big Six, we haven't lost to any of them this season. I don't think we lost to any of them last season either. But we've not been clinical enough. And you saw it in that game yesterday. Thankfully, they launched a comeback. That was good that they showed a lot of fight. But like he's saying, why is it always got to be a reaction? Go out there and deal with the job at hand first. And we were very, very sloppy yesterday. But a good fight back in the end, which I liked, because I'm always like, well, what are you going to do when adversity comes? And they showed a lot of fight and they came back. But it's been a very disappointing season for Arsenal. There's reasons that, the injuries have been horrendous that we've had. I can't think. No team's winning the league with the injuries that we've had. No team. Liverpool wouldn't have won the league with the injuries that we've had. And it's not even a complete excuse, but it is a mitigating circumstance. If you're missing players like Saka for 4 months, if Salah was out for 4 months, come on, they're not going to be as good as they've been. So, we've been missing him. Gabriel Magalhaes, our best defender, he's been out he's out for the season. Top goal scorer from last season, Havertz, missing since January, out for the whole season. Jesus out for the whole season since January. Calafiori came in missing. Who else we got? Martinelli was out. Marino came in at the start of the season, fractured his shoulder in training. He was out for months, no pre-season. Tomiyasu missing all season, not played 1 game, right? Ben White out for months. That is we're talking about players that are your main players. That's gonna affect any team. But where I am disappointed with Arsenal is that they could have done something about it in January. They could have went and bought in a couple of signings to give themselves a chance of winning the league. And I think that the owners of the club, or whether it be the owners or Arteta, just sort of said to themselves, well, you know what? We'll gamble with what we got. And they lost. We had a good run in the Champions League, but in the league, we just fell away completely. And that's where I fought them. But it would have been tough regardless, because of the amount of injuries we've had. And let's hope next season we can have a more injury-free season. And in the summer, we've got to go big. I think every single fan I met in Kenya, every single fan at that event yesterday said, Robbie, we need a striker. We need a, you know, I must have heard that about 1,000 times, and they're all right.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that maybe that's where there was a misstep last season in the summer? Because I've wondered, Calafiori, Merino, well, I understand squad depth, but I felt like maybe they missed a step by not going out and getting a striker.
100% in the summer. That was the other error. We were so close last year, you know, 2 points. And again, if you spoke to a lot of the fans, and that's why it's so great to have a platform like ours, if you spoke to, if you did a survey, 90% of fans would have come back to you and said, we need to buy a striker in the summer. But for some reason, the experts, the managers and the owners and that said, no, all of you guys, you're wrong. All you fans are wrong, all you experts are wrong. We don't need a striker. Well, they were wrong, and they got it horribly wrong. And they should have bought a striker last summer.
Let me take you back to last season, where Arsene Wenger said something like, when you go to City and City are sort of not doing well, maybe if you beat City, then you go on and win the league. Because Arsenal were the best team in the league for all but 1 week.
Yeah, 248 days.
Yeah. What did you think about what happened there according to you guys? What do you think was the misstep last season?
I think, listen, Man City, when they chased us down, they just went on an unbelievable run from December right down till the end and didn't lose a game. And they just pipped us in the end. I felt last year we were the best team. I felt we were better than Man City last year. We beat Man City. We were destroying teams last year. I was really gutted that we didn't win the league last year. Yeah. I felt last year we should have won the league. But fair play to Man City. I think it's just a little bit of experience that they got just about got them over the line. But yeah, I was disappointed with this season. As I said, remember last season, we didn't have hardly any injuries.
Yeah.
It was only really, I think, Jesus, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We didn't really have any injuries at all. Like, you know, you had players like, that defence was always kind of the same. Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, you know what I mean, and Tomiyasu sometimes. But this season, everyone's been missing.
There's a viewer here who's watching and his name is Melvin. He says now, for Arsenal, he feels like they need to get somebody who's going to bang for them 20+ goals next season. Just, of course, tied to what you're saying. He's suggesting Isak. He's one of the players perhaps that could be considered because he has proven he has EPL experience.
Correct.
And then he had an interesting name. He's mentioned Rodrigo could be leaving Real Madrid. That's somebody that could be considered. What would be your wish list in terms of potential players that Arsenal?
Hey, let me I wish I had a Christmas. I've got a long list. I mean, I think you need a striker. Isak would be the dream, but I don't think we'll be getting him. Newcastle aren't going to let him go. He's going to be worth crazy money, even though I think he'd fit the system so well. He can play across the front three. He's wears 14. He's a fan of Thierry Henry. I believe he's an Arsenal fan as well. So he'd fit perfectly into Arsenal. But that's a dream. It's on the wish list. But we're probably going to go for someone like Gyökeres, who I'd like to see. We need a winger. You just mentioned Rodrigo. That sort of ilk of player would be incredible. Obviously, he's getting frustrated with the superstars they have there. Maybe game time. I think it's an opportunity that Arsenal could look upon and go for. We did it with Martin Odegaard many seasons ago. He was from Real Madrid, wasn't happy with the game time. We got him, and now he's our captain.
Rodrigo would be a lot of money, though.
Be a lot of money. And then in midfield, I think we need a midfielder, a creative 10. I like Eze. I really like Eberechi Eze. I would like him or that sort of style of player. And then, so that's three players. And then we're going to need a goalkeeper. I know we have David Raya, a backup goalkeeper, because Neto is going to be going back. He's on loan. I don't think we need any more else in defence if we keep hold of the players. I think this is a big thing. If we let go of players, the thing that's frustrated me in the past of Arsenal is we don't replace the players. So we've gotten rid of strikers or sold them on or put them on loan, and we haven't replaced them at all. From the days of Aubameyang, I know we've got Jesus, but an Aubameyang sort of level striker, we don't replace. We'll take in whatever we make from these people and then look at other areas. So if you're going to get rid of the players like a Trossard, maybe a Jorginho's going, but maybe a Thomas Partey, that sort of player, you have to replace. So if we keep the players that are questionable that they might be staying, if we keep them, I think you only need 4 signings to really be. It sounds a lot, but 4 signings to be up.
There's the one who you've been very heavily linked with, Zubimendi. What do you think?
I think that's happening. I think.
Yeah, I think
is he in your wish list? Where would you rank him? Is it 1? Is he 4?
I think he'd be like 4 for me. Just for the fact that, you know, I want to see attacking players. I keep saying attack. Right, so I want to see attacking players. We do need a player at Zubimendi.
Yeah,
I think if Jorginho goes, you need a backup to that. We saw that the other day in that Champions League game. Partey was out, Jorginho was injured. Then we had to move Rice back into that position, and we lost something in that first game against PSG. So somebody like Zubimendi is very, very highly rated. You know, Liverpool were after him last season. Real Madrid have been after him. I think it's a coup if we make a signing like that. But the thing is, we should really be excited about a signing like that, but we're not, because we want attacking players. And I want to see a striker. I think Arsenal should be considering buying 2 strikers. I really do. I mean, Isak, there's no way I feel that Newcastle are going to sell him. You know, Newcastle, they've got the richest owners in the world. The Saudi owned. They don't need to sell him unless it's like the financial fair play rules. And they're going to get Champions League football, so they're not going to sell him, not this season. So to me, Victor Gyökeres is the obvious one. He's had 2 seasons now of unbelievable scoring records. He also, before that, was playing in the Championship in England, so he knows about the hustle and bustle of English football. I think he'd be perfect. But I get another striker, and I think we need a wide player on the left. And yeah, so attacking players, because the problem with Arsenal this season, and as I said, a lot of it's been down to injuries, but we ain't had options. So that game against PSG the other day, when you looked at the bench, you know, it was just all kids on the bench. My son could have been on there, you know, because it was all, you know, no disrespect to those kids, they're very highly rated kids, but it was just all youngsters that were basically put on the bench because they had no one else, right? So we've got to have options. This is why we drew so many games in the league. This is why Liverpool have won the league, because they've got options. So if it ain't really working out with Jota,
you mix it up.
They can bring on Gakpo, they can bring Diaz on, they can bring on... You saw them yesterday. They brought on Harvey Elliott, they brought on Darwin Núñez. And what was our option?
Zinchenko.
Yeah, we're bringing on defenders. So that's been a problem all season. So we need... To me, I'd go and get a couple, because Jesus is going to be out until at least the new year. Right, so and then even when you come back off an injury like that, you got to come back slowly. You can't rush an ACL, you know. So to me, they should get 2 strikers.
Cecil, it's been what, 5 years? Arteta has done 5 years. He has the one FA Cup trophy. At what point is there pressure on him to deliver the big one?
Right now, I think he's under a lot. Listen, you signed as Arsenal manager. You're under pressure. That's a fact. Arsenal's such a huge club. He was under pressure from the get-go, and there's been times where I'm sure he's felt it from the fans and from the higher-ups. But I think the stage we're in right now, he is under a lot of pressure. Loads of fans have said it. I've heard it from them today. They said, some saying get rid of him now, but if not, they said, a lot of them said, give him this 1 season. If he doesn't lift any silverware, I want him out. And that's the pressure that comes with it. And my biggest frustration, I'm a big Arteta fan, I am. I think he's done a lot to change Arsenal Football Club, but my biggest frustration is, he mentioned in that in the soundbite that we listened to earlier, that we haven't lost to the traditional top 6 in a few years. That's all well and good, but you're not picking up silverware on the way. That's been my biggest disappointment. We finished second. And even if it's a League Cup, whether it's an FA Cup, I know it is in the first year you got that, but I wanted to see silverware on the way. Yes, now you're under even more pressure to deliver, not even just a small trophy, but we're at the stage now, we want a big trophy. We got to the semi-finals of the Champions League. We've been second so long. I understand the frustration from fans, because the next step is winning that trophy, and we've given them time. We've given them a lot of time. I think we've been very patient.
It's interesting you speak about the FA Cup, because I saw Schmeichel yesterday speak about it and say he won that one with Unai Emery's team. Since he's done his team, he hasn't won it. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I hate this narrative.
Yeah, I think that's a really bad narrative to have, right? When you say you won it, you're the manager. You've been brought in as a coach to win, to try. Well, I don't even think anyone was looking for him to win anything that season, right? I remember that season. We had Man City in the semi-finals and Chelsea in the final. I had people who got no chance. Everybody, even me, I was like, we ain't beat, and we beat them and we won that cup. You've got to give him a lot of credit for that. I think this manager is a very, very good manager. He's changed Arsenal. People forget what we were like before he came. We were bad. We weren't winning. We were struggling to finish.
But Robbie, skeptics say 5 years.
I know. So he's what we got to remember, everything's got to be in context.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I'm saying he's got next season. If he doesn't win nothing next season, I would change, right? But we also got to put everything into context, right? When he came in, we were terrible, right? He's changed the culture. He's changed everything around at that club. He's even brought the fans. Fans were very disconnected with Arsenal. He brought them back, connected them up. That first year when we challenged for the league, listen, people got short memories, but I remember, because I'm speaking to fans every day and every week, I remember. Nobody was expecting Arsenal to challenge that season. Everybody's like, oh, it's come ahead of time. And we finished second. The next season, which was obviously last season, a lot of people say, oh, you know what, maybe we could possibly do it. 2 points off Man City. I think the frustrating thing was this season, because a lot of people were like, right, this is it. This is the season when we're going to do it. But then you have to take into account the horrendous injuries that he's had. I was telling you, like, I've been frustrated right throughout the season. But every now and again, I sit down and I'm like, right, Robbie, just look at this thing logically. Which teams win in the league or has won the league in recent times with that amount of injuries? I've seen Liverpool, like, they won the league. The next season, Van Dijk was out for, they were nowhere near it. And we're talking about multiple players. So when you're really, but you can't continue to just keep coming runners up.
Yeah.
You have to have that time when you get over the line. And I think that has to be next season. And I think where he's been really disappointed, Mikel Arteta, has been in some of the cups. FA Cup and that, he's, you know, we haven't won those.
Can I just draw back to what you said about what Schmeichel said about Unai Emery's team? You might have heard me say, I hate that narrative, because that's like, so that means don't give Arne Slot no credit for winning the league. Don't give him no. That's not his team. All he got is Chiesa, and Chiesa didn't feature most of the season. So don't give Arne Slot no credit. It's a horrendous, horrendous narrative.
If Amorim wins the Europa League, I bet you Schmeichel won't say that. as a man, I've met Schmeichel. He says some weird things sometimes. I bet he wouldn't say that. That's
Ten Hag's,
you know. I think things like that. Like you said, that's a perfect example. Arne Slot, you got to give that guy, even though it weren't his team, you give him full credit, because the year before they didn't win it, and he's come in under pressure, and he's won the league.
Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We'll continue on and on. I know you have a very early morning. Of course, you're going to enjoy the flora and fauna in Nairobi. I hope you enjoy your stay before you travel to the United Kingdom. Once again, we do appreciate you making time to join us on Sport On. Thank you so much.
Thank you.